Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to NickTalks. All right, so before we begin, any notes? No. I actually have recorded one video twice before this, so I tried to make the last video twice, failed both times because it was shit. And I made notes in that, but it's too exhausting to say it again. So unfortunately, we're all going to have to miss out on that. But oh well. Anything else going on currently? No. In regards to the big plan that I reference occasionally, that is the house and the boat and then the other house and then rent them all and that kind of deal. Might be making some amendments to that, not sure, but we are in talks at the moment. So we'll see. We'll see if the course is altered, but I don't know as of now. But with that being said, thank you for watching. Hope you're all doing well. Hope everything is good. Hope money's flowing in. Hope ideas are blossoming, and I hope we're having a good time. Cool. So with that being said, we will jump right in. So first one, dealing with ego and trying to keep it in check. So this is something, as a titan of ego myself, something that I am constantly at war within. And so there are some things that I've learned along the way that, I don't know, maybe not help with the battle, but make obvious the importance of the battle itself. Cool. So, one, especially recently, I've noticed that as I add more and more to my schedule, as I get better, so to speak, like from the outside looking in, more successful. I'm doing better things. I'm working harder. I'm embodying my results. It's difficult for me not to look at me, look at how great I am. Not to other people necessarily, but just to me. Like, I've never been really the guy, well, maybe jokingly, sure, but not in sincerity, like, hey, everybody look at me. I don't really care that much. I like attention, sure, but not to that extent to where I would beg for it. But I do definitely like my own attention. And I noticed that as I was focusing so much on admiring, like, my results and admiring how my mind had been working and all the things that I had accomplished within, that suddenly, because all of my space of thought is being taken up by essentially doting on myself, that there was not any focus made on new goals or pursuing new goals or pursuing old goals. So it was essentially like the train was slowly coming to a stop because the train was too busy looking at how greatly it was moving instead of, directing it to the next spot, right? So kind of an issue there, and we are just now coming out of it. But I was like, man, why is my mind slowing down so much? Actually, I have another thing to comment about that as well. But and then I was like, oh yeah, maybe because I haven't actually like made a goal. And I mean, like I've had goals and I've gone after them, but I've spent more time looking at what is good rather than looking at what can be optimized, which once you get into the game of optimization, it is an endless journey. There is always some room for improvement every single place that you go, right? I mean, I can brush my teeth faster. I can, shower in less time. I can reprioritize things. I can be better with my money. I can be better at, getting things done. I can be better at, implementing new positive habits, getting rid of old bad habits. There's always room for improvement, right? So I think that there is some place for positive recognition, but I think that this thing we have going here is a difference between pride and ego. And I'm not sure I can articulate those differences because I don't think that I truly understand it, given that this is sort of new to me, this humility game. But I think it's okay to be, prideful and proud of what you've created and what you've done and who you are because, you have designed that person. But also keeping it in balance. in balance. So as not to forget where you're going and what you want to do and the person you still want to become, because guaranteed you are not there yet, right? You may be doing pretty damn good, but it's still not, the end of the road. I just don't understand. These things are not connected at all. These two desks. I have this tripod. Look at that. That's crazy. I have this tripod set up on a different desk, right? And unless it's this right here. I'm sorry, brief intermission. Less, I guess, but I just don't understand how there's nothing connecting the two, and we're on a solid stone floor, and neither of them are touching the wall. I don't understand. What is the wind from me shaking this desk? That's insane. Doesn't make any sense. But anywho, shout out Carson for the cute mug. Anyway, so where was I? The more that I was focusing on what had been accomplished, the less I was focusing on what could be accomplished. And then it was dulling my brain, and I was not getting the juices flowing because I was spending so much time slurping up the juices that I had already created. And not great. So I think it's good to stay balanced, and it's good to, I think maybe even ego is important. I think that defining the difference between pride and ego would definitely be beneficial, but since I have not done that, I will say that one and or both of them are definitely important to some extent, because it's good to have a little bit of a chip on your shoulder. It's always helped me out. I've always, in all honesty, I guess, I want to be the best, obviously. I want to be the best of that I can be, and if I'm completely honest, I want to be the best in my surroundings. If there's someone doing better than me, working not necessarily by circumstance or material possessions or anything like that, but if someone is working harder than me or working smarter than me, then it's I don't like that. It means that I have room that I could be working more than I am. Maybe not more volume, but harder. I could be doing better. I could be, going faster, but I'm not because I'm being a pussy or whatever, right? So that tells me that. And so having a little bit of ego is it gets that competition going, where it's I'm not really competing against them, but sort of, if you understand what I'm saying. I don't really care about beating the other person. I just care about being the best no matter what. And if someone else is also doing great, that's awesome. But if they're outworking me, that shouldn't be what it is. That shouldn't be how things work, because I know that I have room left in the tank always. So if someone else, I guess one major philosophy that this can kind of boil down to that I have always believed is that there is no one person who can do something better, faster, smarter, stronger than me, as long as I put my mind to it. That every person can do exactly what every other person can do as long as they really, really work for it. And so therefore, if someone else is achieving, maybe not achieving, because it's not really about the achievement. If someone else is putting in more effort than me, that shouldn't be the case. Because if I have effort left to give, then, or if this other human being is capable of doing that, then I am also capable of doing that. And that means that since they are doing it and I am not, and we are both capable of the same thing, then therefore I am slacking, essentially. Long story short, right? So having a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, and a little bit of ego, a little bit of that desire to be the best of all time has helped in my case, because it means I'm always yearning for the next thing, and it means I'm always moving forward. But when unchecked, as we obviously see here, can be detrimental instead of helpful, right? Because now I'm just so busy, in the mirror that people are just whizzing by. Not really. I mean, general population, not really in the game that I'm playing, so it doesn't really matter. But, based on people that are playing the game that I'm playing, not anywhere close to doing well. I'm so far behind, and yet I'm over here doting, bragging to myself about, man, look how good we're doing. Yeah, right. Compared to 2 years ago, maybe. compared to yesterday, not the trajectory that I had in mind. But anywho, so just to note that, it's literally, this is a mystery of, I figured it out. There was some slight connection I didn't see before. Look at this, I can freaking bang this shit all the day long. Fixed it. There you go, Harold. You're welcome. So anyway, so be careful with ego. If it remains unchecked, it is definitely doing more harm than good, but don't root it out entirely. That's my opinion. I'm sure that on the far positive scale of humility and honor, there is some sort of proverb talking about the elimination of the ego, but not today. Cool. So, this other thing, this is kind of what I wanted to talk about as well. So I've been feeling this in the same vein as this slowing of my mind. I've been feeling like I'm just not, like I've been sharper, and that shouldn't be the case. I don't like where there was more success in the past than there is now, because that means that there's something I haven't figured out. There's something that was accidental that I haven't dialed back in, right? And so right now, that is the sharpness of mind, which is interesting because my exercise is great, my water intake's great, my diet is great, my sleep is better than it has been in the past. And yet, there was a time before pre-experiment that I was definitely sharper than I am now and had much more access to memories and information and much more immediate storage, and I could recall data much quicker. I mean, I'm saying much in the sense of like, it's like just a small degree, right? It's not like I was a freaking Einstein a couple weeks ago and now I'm a naked mole rat, right? It's not that stark of a difference, but there is a difference that I can feel, and that I don't like that, right? And so, I've been obviously thinking what could it be, and that's how I came to the realization that, well, maybe it's also because I'm focusing so much on how great I am, because I definitely was doing that, and so I've made it more of a habit to forego those thoughts in hopes of regaining some cognitive function. And it has worked to some extent, but not completely back. And so, again, I've been thinking. Also, this is also like a big +1 on the whole taking time to think. I'm sure this could fall into the meditation category, but we are not for meditation at the moment. But this time that I spend to and from work, sometimes to and from the gym with no sound, no music, no nothing, has really been beneficial in like creating this clarity where it's like, okay, here's the problem. What is going on? And then, coming up with some sort of hypothesis or hypotheses that we can test, right? And so that's how I got the being careful with the ego, and that's also how I have this create more than consume, right? Now, this is not a new thing for me. This is kind of resurfacing, but I've noticed in the past that when I am consuming too much, podcasts and music and movies and TV shows and noise, even in balance, even if like my noise to silence ratio is relatively good, if I'm not creating enough in there, then that consumption still, if the consumption outweighs the creation, then it starts to hurt. It starts to, like, I can feel this. Oh, it's like when you eat too much sugar and it starts to get like hot and like just too rich, and it's like slows the system down. The gears are clogged, right? That's kind of how I feel, right? And so that's how I felt before. And then I made this, actually it was a suggestion from my partner that, maybe you should create more than you consume. And actually I've seen it kind of echoed through the self-help space as well. Maybe not the self-help space, but somewhere I've seen it before in the professional environment, and tried it, worked great. Now I am here again, and obviously, like, I'm creating these, but this is apparently not creation enough. And so the noise that I'm taking in, given that I listen to a podcast every single day, which obviously is too much because of the way that I'm feeling and the slowing of my mind. The balance is not right. And so this will be the first time that I'm going to switch and play with the balance a little bit and try and optimize and pay attention. So I don't really have too much of like, hey, this is what I did and it worked for me, because the first time I did it, it was just like, okay, I should start doing that. And it definitely worked. But to what extent, I don't know. What was the balance? I don't know. All right, it'd be great if I can get down to like hours kind of thing, like how many hours versus how many hours, in versus out. That would be pretty cool. Will we get that far? I don't know. I'm not sure if it is that necessary, as long as we can get some practices that work. But I don't know. I'm thinking, maybe even video games or something like that. Just some sort of outlet that is, specific video games maybe. I'm not really sure. This just came to me literally today, a few hours ago. So I haven't really given it the due thought. But I did want to mention it because it is definitely, a lot of things we don't necessarily need to learn. We just need to remember the things that we've already learned in the past and we've just forgotten. And so this would be one of those things, these seemingly principles of life that I have managed to forget the importance of. And so we're going to try and get back on that train and see how it goes. And hopefully we'll be smarter by the end of the week, right? And I've also started running because I think that maybe my lung capacity has something to do with the slowing of my mind as well. Because here's the thing. Usually, I've noticed that when something is incorrect within the system, it's generally not going to be one big rock in the shoe that is making it unable to even put the shoe on your foot, right? It's not that big of a deal. Normally, it's an accumulation of many rocks in the shoe, and you kind of have to weed out what are the biggest ones and then find a couple of the small ones and get them out of there too, right? And so that's kind of what this is. Focusing too much on my ego. Was it destroying my mental capacity totally? Absolutely not, right? Maybe it made me more of an asshole, sure. Maybe it made me look down on people more, possibly, right? But responsible for some degree of decline in cognitive performance, right? Creating more than I consume. Is it the end-all be-all of it's completely ruining my mental state? No, right? But it is definitely a factor, obviously, right? Lung capacity, is it ruining the way that my mind functions? No. But it may be impairing my sleep slightly, which does impair mental function, right? It may be just from the lack of, or maybe not lack of, but less than optimal amount of oxygen within my blood. Maybe also some, factors there. So just things to think about. This is kind of how the game works as I see it, is that there's not usually going to be one sinister agent that is causing the problems. Usually it's a conglomeration of issues. And this, I believe, works on all levels, both personal, mental, physical, health, body, all these things. Society, culture, right? College, the workforce, high school, everything that you can imagine. Instead of thinking about like, this is the group that is tearing everything down. No, usually it's a lot of complex factors because human beings are very complicated. Societies are very complicated. The world is a very complicated place. So enough of that tangent there. But anywho, I'm going to be creating more than consuming. Cool. Get a little bit on the road there. Wow. Not great coffee. Cool. Sort of moving on from optimizing my cognitive performance, we have identity. And this is something that I think I often overlook, but is also a very integral part of my life in terms of both creating identity and avoiding the accidental creation of identity, right? And so what I mean by this is I'm 100% for character creation. That is essentially how I became the person I am today. I was someone I didn't like. It's not that I didn't like myself. I didn't like who I was. It was just that there were a lot of attributes that I didn't enjoy. And so I set out to change them, and then I discovered, wow, actually you can change these things. I thought it was like just you are this way when you're born and that's it. Not true, right? And so character creation has always been a specific interest of mine, and obviously character creation is simply forging identity. That's it, right? Character creation is just porting it in terms of like video game speak so that you can visualize it easier. You remember punching in the Skyrim character, creating your GTA guy or whatever game, life is the same way. It's the exact same way. You don't get as much freedom. Obviously, you can't. Well, I guess you can change your physical features as well, but maybe not to the exact same extent. But not only has been creating an identity very important to me, but also avoiding the creation of identity. And what I mean by this is it's very easy to latch on to things that you do or believe or say or people that you're around and make that who you are, when I truly believe this is a mistake. This is kind of like in the early adoption of veganism. You saw a lot of that where it was like this tribal mentality. I mean, you see it a lot in politics now. You see it, other health choices. Even when the carnivore diet first started coming out, I saw some things similar to the vegan diet, which is hilarious. Right? But anyways, just CrossFit, stuff like this, where people take this thing, this activity, this hobby, this pastime, this belief structure, and they make it part of who they are to the exclusion of all else, where it's like, that's just so limiting. It's just you're putting yourself in a box and you are nothing else. Whereas I like to say I have a habit of avoiding habits, right? And to me, this is because I am nothing, no thing. I am not one thing. I'm formless. We are all formless beings that can take the shape of any container, right? And so sitting down and being like, I'm the book reader, I'm the coding guy, I'm the coffee drinker, I'm the person who always wears jeans, it's just dumb. It's just putting yourself in a box. And the more you do that, the less room you have to grow and the less room you have to expand and like try new things. I always wear red. Dude, come on, dog. There's like a million other colors out there that you can wear, right? There's a million other beverages other than coffee, right? There's plenty of other coffee shops other than Starbucks, right? There's lots of other beer other than Bud Light. You know what I mean? So there's just this infinite expanse of human experience. And I think that there's some part of human psychology that makes us really want to be on somebody's team, right? This safety in numbers thing where it's like, yes, sure. I think that finding like-minded people is beneficial and that you could share ideas and whatnot. But I mean, there is an extent to where it's kind of dangerous to your own well-being, where it's like you get in one of these, I don't know, Q groups or something, and you're just like in the underground talking about all this stuff that may or may not exist. And it's like, is this good for you? Is this productive? Is this helping at all? So in my case, I found, like, for example, even when making this channel, I very often have a beverage with me, right? And it'll be like after work and I'm about to go to sleep after the video, and I'll be like, oh, maybe I should crack a beer just because I always have a beer. And that'll be a funny, who cares, dude? God, who cares? And see, it's just this mentality that is not even a mentality, but there's some bug in there that people just want to be that guy or that girl, known for that thing. I'm the football player. I'm the rugby guy. I'm the weightlifter. Dude, who gives a fuck, man? Jesus Christ. Just be. Just be. Just be you. Change you. Do different things, right? You're a big drinker then? Try not drinking. Cool. You're a big CrossFitter? Try another form of training, right? All this, you just switch things around and try things because that's what life is all about. And maybe you find something better than what you did before. But if you cling to what you have so barbarically, then where is the room? Where is the room to move forward, right? And also, it's going to limit you. You're going to be dumb. You're going to be dumb for sure, and you're going to be emotional about that thing, and you're going to be, it's like anytime you try to point out the flaws of CrossFit, or you try to point out, well, why do you look so sickly, even though you say that this diet is so helpful for it. Right. The emotion comes right out because there's not really a deep belief within what they're doing. It is just this is part of me. And because it's part of you, part of me, part of us, right? Then it's, instead of having a conversation and attacking the thing that you're doing, it becomes a personal attack. Whereas like, hey man, I thought that the right did something pretty stupid. Saw it on the news. Now it's a big deal because I'm right wing. I'm conservative. I got a, whatever sticker on the wall. I got this flag and that flag. And dude, it's okay. It's all right. We're all just, living here. It's cool, dog. It doesn't have to be that deep. So to wrap this up and bring it home is be careful with what you allow to become another module on your identity. I think that some aspects of identity are very important. I think that it's pretty similar to having life principles. I am the guy who doesn't steal. That's not bad, right? I am the guy who is always working harder than others. Not bad, right? So stuff like that, you can add it in and it's not going to be that horrible for you, but just be careful about what you allow to become part of you, and have an audit every once in a while and be like, what beliefs am I profligating? What am I expelling constantly? What is in my entire repertoire that is useless, that I haven't done the homework on, that I don't even know what I'm talking about, that I don't even necessarily believe, right? But that I just do because everyone at work does it and it feels good to be with the trendy kids, right? I think it's good to pay attention to these things every once in a while. Also a +1 for the being antisocial at work club, because that means that I never have that problem and I can constantly look down on my fellow employees who are obviously living worse lives than I am. Morally, anyway. I don't mean the content of their day-to-day experiences is shitty. I just mean that the moral standards at which they live are obviously to a lower grade. But that's okay, because I respect everyone's freedom. Cool. But also, yikes. So, anywho. Back on the relationship train, boy. So, something that is seemingly obvious now, but I'm not sure was obvious to me in my youth, and I'm not sure is obvious to many people in general society. And that is, if your relationships keep failing over and over and over again for relatively the same reasons, then you have to look at the common denominator in those situations and realize that the problem is most likely you. Now, this doesn't mean that you are directly causing issue, but in some aspect of how you handle relationships, it is not correct, right? So for me, not very good at romantic relationships in my youth. I would say, maybe better than some, but my shelf life was about 1.5 to 2 years, roughly. Which, for a 14 to 19-year-old is like, oh, that's pretty respectable. But on the other side of that coin is like, okay, yes, but I spent 2 years with somebody and then the relationship fails. And then 6 months later, I spend another 2 years with somebody and the relationship fails. And then another year with somebody and the relationship fails. And so it's like, okay, we got this time commitment here that is just not working out. If I'm going to invest 2 years of my time in something, it better be fucking worth it, right? And if it ends up failing, it wasn't worth it. Obviously, it wasn't worth it. Sometimes circumstances are out of your hands, but generally not the case, right? So I had to kind of pump the brakes a little bit and be like, whoa. Every relationship that I've had has gone downhill pretty much for the same reasons. It's almost formulaic in the way that it plays out, right? So instead of rushing into something and spending the next 2 years going towards a predetermined destiny of failure by a set of circumstances that we already know what's going to happen, why don't I just take the time and, one, figure out what I'm doing wrong, and two, figure out what the fuck do I want, right? In a partner. What do I want? What do I not want? Defining that, because I think that defining what you really want is one of the most important things. Like, I'm looking for the boat right now, right? And just simply defining, what do I want in a boat? What do I not want in a boat? Now, all of a sudden, it's like these things pop up and it's like this holy grail. Oh my God, you were made for me. It's like, no, dude, I just know what I want now. I've defined a set of terms, and there's bound to be something that exists within those sets, right? So, relationships are no different. Defining what you want and what you do not want, but then also looking within and, hey, what am I failing at here? What am I not doing right? Because I, in my younger days, had quite the knack for bringing out the insanity in any woman to quite an extent. And I also inherited this lovely trait from the men before me. I was really good at playing it off so that it seemed like I wasn't doing anything to everybody, including the two of us. But on a deep, deep, deep level, I was doing something. And that tiny little needle that was stuck in the side there caused this mountainous eruption over time, right? And so I had to come to terms with man, it seems like either A, women are just crazy, or B, Nick is just really good at making them crazy. And obviously, broad generalizations such as women are crazy are usually not correct. So I had to kind of confront the latter there. And it was the case. It was the case. Looking at my own behavior, I can see what was wrong. I could see what I was doing incorrectly. I could see, okay, if the roles were reversed, am I aware that this would affect me this way? That, I won't go into depth because I think it's too subtle of a game to really explain. But either way, I had to take the time and be like, I'm not having another relationship, another partnership, another date, another nothing. I'm not talking to another female until I have this figured out. Until I know what I want, until I know what I don't want, until I know what I was doing wrong, right? Because then, if I have those three things, at least if I get into another relationship, I will have some idea of, direction, some way to go, rather than the same place as before. It may fail again, sure, but for new reasons, and then I'll be just figuring this relationship thing out as I go along. That's fine. And actually, it ended up not being the case, right? I did this little bit of work here. Well, it was kind of a lot of work. It took me several months of actually some pretty internal work, internal scraping to figure out what was going on and figure out what I wanted in the future. But then, right in front of me, exactly what I had set the terms to. And I have seemingly worked on the things that needed to be worked on, and so this relationship has gone pretty well so far, right? So, it's worked out for me. It's worked out for me, and the fulfillment of my terms is still astonishing to this day. That, I'm very good at taking things for granted, but when I do sit back and I looking at how well my current relationship matches the terms that I had set is pretty great, pretty awesome, cannot complain there. So, again, just advocating for doing this, just thinking it through, just putting the time and the effort into, what do I want? What is acceptable? What is not acceptable? Think past all your relationships, like all the times that, you've been yelled at or nagged, or they didn't do this or they didn't do that, or they did this too much, or, all this stuff. And then just having, okay, I don't want that. Don't want that at all. And I really would like this, and I'm going to try not to do this bad stuff anymore. Maybe not bad stuff, but stuff that doesn't lead to a positive outcome, right? And there you go. And I think that deep at the center of this is the fact that your relationship is not going to make you happy. Your partner is not going to make you happy. Your friends are not going to make you happy. Your mom, your dad, your uncle, your coworkers, nobody's going to make you happy. Only you can make yourself happy, and then others can supplement that happiness with the joy of experience, right? But if you're a miserable person, the only thing that fun friends are going to do is they're going to mask that for a little bit, and that's essentially the same as drug addiction, right? So it's not really the healthiest way to go. So master that, or at least understand that, and then you won't be so drawn to people that, maybe not so drawn to people, but this is what I mean. Like, one of my early caregivers had this issue, and I got to witness it firsthand. I've been in many houses. I've been to a lot of different places over the course of my life, because this person did not understand this fact that happiness comes from within, not from without, and instead searched for that happiness within the hearts of women to a continuous extent, right? So I've seen the other end of this spectrum. I've seen what happens when you, instead of just doing the work on yourself, instead of sitting with yourself and going deep in your thoughts and understanding what is hurting you and what is really the problem and what you are fucking up, instead of just doing that, going to another person. Oh, this isn't working, the next one. Oh, this isn't working, the next one, right? It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. They're going to keep failing. You're going to keep being miserable, and you're going to drag that misery through all of those people's lives, right? So you kind of have a responsibility here. This is that ripple effect we've talked about, right? Where it's like, if you don't fix this problem, one, every single partner that you ever interact with will deal with this same situation that you have dealt that situation to the last 10 partners or whatever, however many, right? Two, you will be miserable for the entire time until you fix this freaking problem, until you find the nut that is loose and you go, ooh, there it is, right? And three, your children will inherit the exact same problem because they learn from watching you, okay? So if you would like to give your children a shot at having healthy relationships, you should probably do the work and figure out what the hell's the problem first, right? Right. Because otherwise, they got to figure it out themselves, and that's like kind of a maddening road to go down, is just to have no model of anything except for what not to do, and then just piece together what you should do out of the grand infiniteness of possibility that is positive action. Fucking Jesus Christ. It's like trying to figure out complex mathematics with, just knowing what a plus sign looks like. Thanks, dude. No numerals, no equals, no nothing. Just, it looks like this. Go. Yeah, cool, bud. Thank you. Sweet. So, moving on. Well, actually, that's it. So I'm going to wrap this whole deal here. We'll run back through this, and then I have... Oh, here. This is the outline for the video that got scrapped. God, that was a hurtful process. But, happens. Sometimes you got the juice, sometimes you don't, baby. Cool. So, first, we talked about being careful with ego and not let it take too much of your attention so that your attention can be spent elsewhere, better elsewhere, right? So you don't get so caught up in how great you are and all the things that you've done and what you're doing awesome that you forget what you could be doing better, right? Cool. Creating more than you consume. Creation more than consumption, so as to be bringing more into the world than you are taking out. Being the source of light rather than the taker of light, right? And this, just the juices do not flow if this balance is not correct. And I guess that's something that I should have stated before, whereas like, yes, I stated it in terms of cognitive performance, sure, but in reality, it's like I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not like that sense of I'm gunning for something, man. That excitement about life, that juice. The juice is not there because I'm just clogging my pores with so much information and so much voice and so much media that it's not. It's not even being able to. I can't even counteract it with silence. It's too much that I have to be creating something. Jesus, start painting, start drawing, start writing, creative writing, right? Design a website, dude. Just do something, man. Do something. Just sit, stare at the wall, and create a map of a non-existent fictional city, and then just do that for 3 hours, and I'm sure you'll be good. Cool. And then creation of identity and avoiding the accidental creation of identity, and making the habit of avoiding habits and not making everything such a big deal where it has to be part of me now. This is me. I am this. This is me. Look at me. Ha ha ha. No, dude. Come on, dog. You just be. Just be, and then be, and then float, and then be, and then be. Right. What I mean is, you can be. It's literally Mike Tyson's hat speech at that graduation, right? You can wear this hat your whole life, and then you can take that hat off and put this hat on, right? It's the same thing, man. Just, you can be whatever the hell you want. Don't get caught up in being the thing that you've always been just because you've always been that. Yeah, it's going to be kind of scary, but who cares, dog? Just switch it up. And you can even go back to that. It's not like you're removing this part of yourself. No, it's just you're trying something new. It's okay. Well, sometimes it's okay. And then if relationships continuously fail, you must fix what is broken before moving to the next, and happiness comes from within. If you keep running to other people to solve your internal problems, they will never get fixed, and you will only be causing more headache for you and that person until you fix it. And your kids are going to take the exact same lesson and they do the exact same thing, and then their kids and their kids and their kids, until somebody pulls their head out of their ass and fixes what is going on. Hopefully. Right? Cool. So, for our life hack today, I have something that was given to me when I was working at ASCO, that construction job when I was fresh out of college, fresh out of dropping out of college. And that was, so it was pretty like bare bones project. It was a compressor plant. So like it distributed natural gas throughout the area that was pretty close to where I lived. And they were building like a new building onto it, and like whole new engines, everything like this. It was actually pretty badass, but and a lot of good stories to tell out of that place, but not today. But anyways, I got put with this guy. I'm a metal trades, so I was like the lowest man on the totem pole, and my foreman called him Pickle. That was, I don't know if I'm giving too much information there. Who fucking cares? But he was my overseer, essentially. And we were looking for him to, tell us where to go. And he has this, like, tent set up. They called them hooches. And usually you keep equipment in there and stuff like that, so that if it rains, it doesn't get all the stuff, like all your tools wet. And so we go in there, and this guy has like a wooden bench set up, and he's got an L desk made out of just those like pop-up beer pong tables, right? And then a propane heater, and he's got lights hung up in there. It's like super nice in there, and it's super comfortable, and he's just chilling. And we walk in there, and we're like, what the fuck, dude? And he looks at us, and he's like, you make your own conditions. And that was something that immediately stuck with me, because that's always been something that I've done and that I've taken from other people and like seen enacted, but I've never just had words to put it with it, and that is, you make your own conditions. That no matter where you are, no matter what situation you're in, you can figure it out and make it a little bit cozier. It's like my last apartment, or 3 apartments ago, my first apartment actually. When I was living at my parents', I had a nice big desk, huge desk, and that's where I would do all my little tinkering and stuff like that. And a big old steel wire shelf, and like mini fridge, and I just had this whole big area that I could, have all my tools and everything. Well, then I moved into this apartment, and I'm splitting it with 2 other people, and all I have is this tiny little closet. Well, one day, when I was in lockdown and I couldn't leave my room, I decided to change it and make my own conditions. And then I hung everything up in there, and I made, like hangers all over the place, and I completely organized the space to where like it was putting all the tools that I had spread out everywhere in this tiny little space. And it was awesome. It was so comfortable. It was sweet. Even if I wasn't doing anything, I loved just hanging out in there and looking at how everything was set up. And just like, I could just sit there on my phone, dude, but just being in that space was awesome. So that's what I mean. Don't allow your external environment condition what your comfort level is. Sometimes it's going to be out of your hands, yeah, sure, but there's always something that you can do. You're stuck out in the middle of the woods, dude, make a little lean-to, right? Make a little bench, make a little seat, prop your back up a little. There's always a little bit of room for comfort, and it's taking that and just adding a little bit of joy to your current environment. And that's been super beneficial to me, something that I always think about. I'm always like, man, that's probably a similar train of thought as the whole dumpster scavenging thing, or side of the road scavenging. I don't mean in the dumpster. I would never dumpster dive for stuff. I don't need stuff. I mean, maybe if it was like on top and I could just pick it out and there was no shit on it or anything, then maybe. But around the dumpster and on the sides of roads, Jesus, dude, we have some pride. Probably same vein. We're like, man, let's just add a little bit of stuff. It might not be perfect, but it would definitely be better than not having it, right? So there you go. Do with that what you will. Hopefully that brings you some comfort, some joy, some reprieve in the future. Son, you make your own conditions. Hell of a line, Pickle. Hell of a line. Among many, many lines. But with that being said, thank you for watching. I appreciate you all. Check out other videos. I don't know. We'll see how this goes. But I appreciate you. Hopefully we'll get that bag together. Let's make it happen. Nick out. With that being said, Nick out. There we go.